In any life, we have highs and lows, light and dark, wins and losses. What happens when we encounter that moment in time when what happens next could change everything? Join us as we step into another person's inspirational moment and see how we can connect their experience to ours. This is Greg Stevens, and you're listening to A Shot of Inspiration. Greg Stevens, and welcome back to A Shot of Inspiration. I'm here with Finley, and we'll be putting her away as we get started. But today's guest is Greg Peters. He is founder of Third Generation Networking. He wrote a book called Hello with a Handshake. He's also past president about 10 years ago of National Speakers Association. And I met Greg through some friends of mine a couple of weeks ago. And we sat down and had an amazing conversation. And I'm really excited about today because he's taken networking to a whole new level from where he began. Greg, thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, my pleasure, Greg.
So as we get in, I'm going to go ahead and put Finley in our chat room. 1 second here. I'm going to put her in the chat box. She's going to go in the waiting room and we'll bring her back at the end of this. But I want to get serious and talk a little about your life. To me, this is about inspiring stories. And you didn't start out doing what you did today. So walk us through what you did a little before you started public speaking, writing a book, doing all the things you do around networking, because to me, you're a master at it. And I want people to hear your story. And you're typically not the type of person that would actually go out and do this type of work, are you?
Not originally.
Yeah.
I started out my professional life as a computer programmer with all the social skills that implies. I decided, with a little urging from my mom, to start my own business. And because I was going to be an entrepreneur, you can see the cape flowing behind me and the wind in my hair, the whole bit. What I didn't realize is that when you start your own business, you have to find your own work. And so my choices are I could make cold calls, which seemed like just asking for rejection, which I didn't need, or I could try this networking thing. So I decided to go the second route, and I was horrible at it. Of course, no,
Of course
like
you were.
that was not part of my training. You don't train computer programmers to talk to people.
Right.
In fact, when I was working for University of Michigan at the time, and they used to actually put donuts out on Wednesday mornings to lure us out of our offices.
That's so true. That's
Seriously, I would go to these networking events and I would grab my food and I would sit in the corner and I would wait for networking to happen to me. And it really doesn't. When you do things like that, when you sit in the corner and you're irritated when other people sit with you and you don't know how to have conversations, you're not going to be successful.
yeah. Yeah.
Fortunately, my mom at the time, she is teaching a class on networking. And so I decided it would probably be wise for me to take this class. Ask me if I got the family discount.
That's good.
No, full price.
Exactly. It's
Uh,
probably good too, because I think when you put money behind it, you really take it seriously.
yes. And when your mom's teaching the class, you better take it seriously.
Exactly.
But I learned a lot from her. And then I started reading books and trying out techniques. And I slowly got better, as you will when you try things. And what I learned is networking is a skill. It's not just some innate talent that you're born with.
Yeah.
Which was a relief because if you want to be in basketball, you can't make yourself taller. This whole idea of not having the gift of gab or whatever, that wasn't something you had to worry about. You just had to learn these techniques on how to be a good networker. I started my business back in 1994, and in about 2007, I decided to go full time on it because I was doing part time between the business and my programming job at University of Michigan. And this was a business doing web programming. This is back in the early days of the web before anything complicated was out there. So I decided to start my own business. And it was challenging because that was the time we had a little bit of a financial meltdown in our world. Not always a great time to start a business, but that's okay. Fortunately, because I had grown it through networking, I actually grew. So I grew 50% year over year for the next 2 years. I didn't ever want to have someone working for me, though. That wasn't where I lived. I just enjoyed doing the work. but I didn't really want to give that up to someone else. I felt like I was the only one who could do it. Flaw in the plan, I know. In about 2009, I realized this wasn't making me happy anymore. I was up until all hours. One night I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get the work done. And I realized this isn't feeding my soul anymore. And it was time for me to do something new, which was, I mean, how much do we identify who we are with what we do? I'm literally giving up a good portion of my identity. I was in a quandary, a little existential crisis, even.
Especially after leaving your job and doing this full time.
Yeah.
It's like, where do I go from here?
Yeah. And I'm married and I have a daughter. I mean, my wife is gainfully employed and everything, but still, it's a part of who we are as a family, even. So the next day, I was meeting with a friend of mine, a networking friend. She was with the Ann Arbor Chamber of Commerce, and we just started chatting. And I was complaining, as you often do to good friends, about this sort of revelation I'd had. And she listened patiently. And then after I kind of wound down, she said, "Well, did you ever think about teaching people about how you grew your business?" And that was the moment when the Reluctant Networker was born. And that's our speaking platform, is the Reluctant Networker. And I started tapering off the old programming business and tapering up this new one. And I've never been happier to work. It is a joy to be able to help people connect with each other and to help them understand that you don't have to be born special to do it.
I love that. It's a lot like when I first started, I never thought I'd be a coach until my coach, I was actually pursuing an acting career and told him it just didn't call to me like I thought it would. And everything was going right. He would have thought, oh, he's about to move out to LA and do that work. And I just said, it just doesn't feel right. He goes, have you ever thought about doing what I do? It was that question. I go, what do you mean do what you do? Training, coaching. It's like, no, I've never thought of that. He said, go think about it. It came back, what would I need to do? And he laid out a real apprenticeship, a full 2-year program to what would I need to do? Go out and coach for free, go out and produce courses, don't make any money, give. It's like, and keep your job while you're doing it.
Also,
So, yeah, and it's great. But and when I hear that, when she asked the question, was it just like this? Oh, was it a relief? What did you feel in that moment?
it was an awakening. It was, oh, there is a different path here. I don't have to do what I was always doing. I don't have to be what I always was. I can be something new.
Yeah. And
Uh,
the energy came, I'm sure, right after that.
yeah, and I'd been doing a little bit of speaking anyway, so I knew kind of how I enjoyed it. I was a karate instructor for many years, and I learned a lot watching those other instructors on how to capture an audience because let's face it, if you're dealing with 11, 7-year-olds, you better be fascinating in about 30 seconds or you're toast. So
That's a tough crowd.
that's a real tough because the hitter's going to start hitting, the runner's going to start running. And the funny thing is, as an adult, now I'm speaking to adults, they check out just about as fast. They're just a little more subtle about it. So,
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah. When you started making the shift, how long did it take you to, you would say, because you already had some things going, how much time was it from
honestly,
inception of that to full speed?
it took me almost 5 years to completely taper off the programming because I had contracts.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave my customers in the lurch. So I would take a smaller and smaller ones and I would never take on any new clients. So that slowly tapered off. And meanwhile, I was growing the other, because honestly, when you're first out there speaking, it's kind of like when you're first out there coaching, you're going to be doing a lot of effort for those rubbery chicken dinners. It's just, that's the way it is. You've got to establish yourself out there. You have to have an audience who wants to hear from you. You have to even know who you are and the message you're trying to convey. But you can't do that sitting alone in an office.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to be out. And if anyone is considering being a professional speaker, you got to be out speaking.
Very true. And the more you speak, the sharper you get. And the less you speak, the rustier you get.
Yes. And the more you speak, the more you refine your message.
Yeah.
I look back at the programs I delivered back when I started, and they weren't bad, but they didn't have a sense of showmanship. They didn't have the stories that I have. And many of the stories that I have, or some of the techniques I use, I learned from my audience. They often give you the best material. So,
They do. And the best feedback, because you see what lands and what doesn't.
yes.
So let me ask you, this is interesting. Didn't think we were going to go here, but what is the process you go through when you have an idea about a speech you want to start to play with? Do you have a process?
I wish I could say I did. Again, this is part of my background is that I was very much in the back room, and any speeches I went and saw were very technically oriented or boring at best. So to actually learn how to speak properly in front of a group was a little bit more of a challenge, and how to prepare for that was more of a challenge for me. What I've discovered in working with a lot of other speakers, or having a lot of speakers who are part of my network, everyone has their own process. For me, I love telling stories, and they're usually not about whatever the topic is. They're like some story about my kids, or a story about driving to work, or whatever. But then you create through analogy, you connect them.
Right.
So I might talk about one story I came up with was about dropping my kids off at school, and how the two kids were completely different. One would race ahead because being seen with dad was embarrassing, and the other one wanted to hold my hand and walk in the entire way. But in watching them, they each obviously were successful. And so I needed to make sure that I was providing for them what they needed,
Yeah.
not what I wanted to give.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is just, okay, how does this story, what parable can I tell? What analogy can I create? And in some ways, that actually comes from my background as a computer programmer, because what I was doing was very technical, and I had to create analogies to be able to describe what it was that we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So I've also learned I don't compose well in front of the screen. I need to walk, I need to move in order for me to create. So there's something about that, the act of moving, which I know gets the juices going.
I'm the same way when I do a Zoom speech. I have a raised desk, I stand, and I have one of these boards that's kind of oblong, so it feels like I'm walking. I've got to have that movement because I'm trying to project that onto the audience. I'm in charge of the room when I'm in front, and I'm in charge of the mood of the room, the energy of the room. If I give that out, I'll get it back. But if I come in slow and staggering, it's going to be a knockout punch.
Not the good kind.
No, not the good kind. But when you were just speaking that, it was interesting. I saw a public speaker one time, and he said, I don't give speeches, I tell stories. And that is the best public speaker. It is a speech, but it's a talk about my experience, and you understand your life, and you have all the material you need if someone's out there listening and you wonder, what is your subject matter? What are you a subject matter expert on? Your life. And what you just told about your kids, I could see that, because typically when you have two kids, one's very different than the other. It just is that way. And when you walk people through that, they put themselves there. What happens is those mirroring neurons kick in, and they're no longer about your story. They're feeling their story. That's when you know you've got an audience.
Yeah. And we talk about that at the National Speakers Association a lot, is your stories don't have to be big ones. You don't have to climb Mount Everest. You don't have to walk the tightrope across the Grand Canyon or whatever, because those big stories your audience can't always identify with.
Yeah.
But they can identify with losing your kid at Disney World. They can identify with, and yes, that's actually usually my opening story.
Oh my gosh. That brought me back to one of my biggest fears that ever happened to me. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. Every person out there understands that pit of the stomach ache. That there's a disturbance in the force, and something is horribly wrong. And I know my wife's going to notice that one of them's missing.
Oh my gosh. You just you brought back a memory for me. So thank you so much for that,
No,
Greg.
and
Yeah,
that's kind of what it is. And in many ways, that's what networking is about too. It's about finding that common ground. It's about realizing that we are more the same than we are different.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting in networking. I typically try to find out where someone lives. And I learned this when I was 4 years old, I think. We were on vacation with my family and we were, I don't know, I think we were somewhere in the Ozarks or something. And we met this family and they said, yeah, they were from Shreveport. And I asked, do you know? And I said, my aunt and uncle, they lived in Shreveport. And my parents started laughing and looking at me. They go, they're our next door neighbors. Because their name was Romy and Vera Fife. You don't hear that name.
Not a real
So,
common
but
name.
our next, and I learned in my, everyone started laughing, but I can't tell you how many times I find out where someone's from. Or a company they worked with, I start throwing names out. Of course, it's a huge company. You're not going to know anyone. Many times they've actually known, and there's an automatic connection there.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've all had that situation where we're standing in line and we just start talking with someone and we discover that we both have cats or dogs or we both love travel or we're both quilters. Whatever it is, it's an instant connection.
Yeah.
We become related under the surface. And it's, oh, I see you, I know you, I understand you,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is it's a wonderful thing when that can happen.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a little scenario here. You walk into a networking event
Okay.
and there are people talking to each other. You can tell some are friends, some have just met. You walk in and it just doesn't seem like there's an opening anywhere. And I feel like I'm on this island that I don't know what to do. There's the bar over there. You can go get a drink, or there's really no one on their own. Everyone's already linked up. What do you do in that moment?
I refer to that as the middle school dance scenario. You walk in and everybody's already having a good time. You're standing off to the side waiting for fun to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The rule that I have for myself, and the one I talk about in my sessions, is that always look for the smallest group possible. Look for the singletons. There's almost always a singleton out there. Um, and, yeah, if they're on their phone, don't bother them.
Yeah.
You look for them because believe it or not, there are other people out there that are uncomfortable in this situation. So go and rescue them.
Yeah.
I spoke one time for Kellogg, and one of the executives came up to me afterward, and I made this recommendation, and she said, I do that all the time. She said, I just did it the other night. I saw a guy sitting by himself off to the side. I just went down, sat with him, started talking with him. Turned out he was the president of the local bank. Just wasn't comfortable going out there. Wouldn't you love to have the president of the local bank in your network? There's nothing wrong with it. And not only that, but grateful to you for rescuing them. So that would be the role. Look for the smallest group possible. If there are no singletons, which you conveniently said, aha, the next size up is two. So you just look for the couples out there, watch for the body language. If they are facing inward, it's a private conversation. So for you to force your way in, it's interrupting.
Right.
But if they're shoulder to shoulder facing outward, that's an open conversation. Just walk up and say, hey, can I join you?
Yeah.
It's not that hard. And everybody's always worried about what they're going to say.
Yeah.
It's not about what you're going to say. No one, I've heard recommendations. You should read the news so that you have something to talk about. Don't do that.
Agreed. Don't.
No one wants to talk about the news. Okay. Be curious, interested, be fascinated by the people around you. Ask good questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all it takes, honestly. You can even ask them the boring stuff. So tell me, what do you do? Because often they've got a name tag. So what do you do for XYZ Bank? Let them talk. Be interested in that. And be ready with your follow-up questions. One of my favorite follow-up questions is, how long have you been doing that?
Yeah.
Which I know seems like a very short response, but there's a follow-up to the follow-up. If it's been going on for longer than 3 years, ask them what's changed. Because almost without fail, if someone's been doing something for longer than 3 years, something has changed, and they probably have a fairly strong opinion about it.
And then you get them to open up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's when you meet the real person, when
Yeah.
they're speaking passionately about something.
Yeah.
And your whole purpose there is to find people that you want to follow up with, that you want to have a longer conversation with later.
Yeah.
And it can happen that two perfectly wonderful people just don't mesh. That's okay
Yeah.
because there are a lot of other people in that room.
Yeah. Now, what happens if someone is like less than a year? What would you say on that follow-up question?
Oh, so what got you into it?
Good, good. Yeah, I love
Oh, there's always questions. Be curious about that because ask them about their journey.
it.
What led you to this? Why did you think this was a good idea? What are the challenges you think you're going to be facing? And what have been some of the successes you've seen? These are all things that get them talking and get them to expound more upon who they are and what they believe.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible and normal that mirroring is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to see if you ask them what they do, they're going to ask you what you do.
Yeah.
So be ready with a response,
Right.
but do not do what we refer to as the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
No one wants that. It's a commercial. They'll ignore you. They won't remember what you said, and it feels manipulative.
Yeah. Because
Tell
it
them
is.
what you did, tell them what you did, and then follow up again with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back to what I think it's important through the years I've found certain things that work and certain things that don't. Like you were saying, if they're turned inward, don't approach them. But if they're turned outward, if I have a drink in my hand, I just kind of look them in the eye, cheer them, walk over and say, "Hi, I'm Greg Stevens." And I put my hand out. You want to shake it firmly. Don't break their hand, but match theirs. And if they go really soft, match it. But try to match whatever that is, but look them in the eye and be confident. One of the things I find is people standing there, oh gosh, they get in their head. I'm intruding. I'm this, I'm that. Change it to, hey, I'm here to help people. And I'm not going to be able to do that unless I meet them. And they probably want to meet me. I go into a positive self talk because I've been in the other ones where I say, what did it come today? This is terrible. There's no one here I want to meet because your brain is like going in fear mode and fear always distorts. So you're looking at a distorted view. But what if you switch that thinking? Any tips or hints on that?
Yeah, I think the whole idea of being curious, of being interested in them, that really helps out a lot. And do understand, chances are a lot of the people who are talking together, it's because they already know each other
Mhm.
and that's where they're comfortable.
Yeah.
You are actually doing people a service by walking up to them and having a conversation with them. The biggest challenge is going to be that you have now made them very comfortable and they're never going to want to leave. So
You don't get to talk to anyone else that night.
you have to be able to gracefully walk away from a conversation as well. But really, you're rescuing them in many cases. Yeah, that's really what it's all about. I think the best thing to do, a lot of people, they have that sort of mental block. They're walking in, and we talk about this in some of my sessions also, is it's a stranger danger thing. You're walking in and you're surrounded by a bunch of strangers. And what has your mom told you from the very beginning of your being able to don't talk to strangers? And she's back there. She's still talking that talk. So you need to replace that mindset with a different mindset.
Absolutely.
And the mindset you want is you are the host and they are your guests. If you walk in with a mindset of a host, you don't have to be official, but walk in with a mindset that my purpose is to make the people around me comfortable, and I'm going to look for any way I can do that.
Yeah, that's great.
It means that you are now in control. You're not waiting for it to happen to you. You are the one who's going to change the whole nature of this event.
That's great. You wrote Hello with a Handshake. Tell me a little about how that came about and what's been the result of that book for you?
It came about because I can't go home with everybody. And a lot of what I had learned, this book specifically about how to be comfortable at these networking events, what to expect, how to have conversations, even how to deal with some of those activities they have, like speed networking or whatever. So I thought, why don't I coalesce all of these systems that I built, because I'm a systems guy, coalesce it into a book so people could actually follow it. And it's funny, you don't realize the reach you have when you've written a book. I went to speak at a nearby credit union. They were having a business breakfast, and I was the featured speaker. And I still remember it. I was preparing, putting out my notes and everything. And this young woman walks in, clutching my book in her hands. It's like, she walks up to me and she says, "Could you sign my book, please?" I'm like, I'd be happy to. So I signed her book. And then someone else in the audience, she said, "Oh, my copy's in the car." Because apparently this credit union had a book club and my book was actually featured in it. So she ran out to her car, she brought it in. She, "Would you sign this too?" So I opened up to sign it. And apparently she bought it used because I'd already signed it to someone else. So there's nothing like having the ego get pumped up and then put right back in place again.
That's good because people usually don't get rid of a signed book.
So I said, "Do you want me to just put Ann Linda at the top?"
That's good. That's good. That's awesome. Let's talk about what you're doing now. And for our audience, who would be someone who would need your services to reach out to you to engage you in business?
I'm working with a lot of sort of mid-level professional associations,
Okay.
especially when they're doing their annual conferences. What I present is really useful, especially if they can get me in early, because it gives people the skill sets they need to be more successful at the conference, which makes them more comfortable at the conference, which means they connect better at the conference, which means they're going to come back for the next conference. Doing a lot of work with them. As far as our training program goes, I've been doing a lot of work with credit unions. I have found a niche there, which I was actually surprised by, but I guess I shouldn't in retrospect, because credit unions have a specific mandate to be connected with and support their community. They're often spread throughout a geographic area and they might have multiple branches, which means that even internally, they need to be able to connect with each other. So bringing me in just makes sense so that they can develop those skills that they need to follow their own mandate. So it's been a real joy to discover that. But ironically, then I happened to look back at some of my records. It turns out I've been working with credit unions for the last 10 years. So I just I suddenly realized, I guess I do a lot of work with.
Well, the reticular activator kicked in and goes, "Oh, that's
good.
I've been doing it."
That's been a real joy to be able to do that and look at what else can I do to support them, because we're working right now on developing the relationship. Is there some other mechanisms we could do, like how to ask for referrals and what does that mean within that credit union environment? And the nice thing is, really, the concepts of networking are applicable across almost any industry.
Yeah.
I've spoken with folks in medical, I've spoken in front of the Cookware Manufacturers Association and the Apartment Management Association. It applies across almost any industry.
Yeah. I bet that is hard because with what I do, helping people with difficult conversations, everyone needs it, just like what you're doing. And everyone keeps telling me, "You got to narrow your focus." I don't know how sometimes.
And this is actually another thing we work on with some of our clients is it's not that you are going to turn away people. It's the realization that there is a particular group that you really enjoy serving. And so you are going to focus your efforts. If someone from I don't know, the basketball association said that they wanted to bring me in, I'd be happy to. I know I can serve them,
Right.
but I am not going to pursue them.
Gotcha.
I only have so many hours in my day. I can't network with everyone. Who do you enjoy serving is really where it comes down to.
That's great. Before we begin recording, you and I were discussing you don't do it alone. You have other people. And let's talk about that a sec. I think it's so interesting because so often, like you were working so hard up at 3 in the morning before all this happened. And then you find this one person who opens your eyes to it. Tell us more about your insights about not doing it alone and the importance of reaching out to the people in your base of friends and connections.
Oh gosh, where do I start?
It's a big one.
Yeah, I mentioned to you, I wrote an article. It's called The Myth of the Lone Wolf. And in our culture, especially, we've got this whole do-it-yourself mentality, is that we are going to do it. We are the only ones who can do it. The problem with that is it really limits our scope. Sure, there are visionaries out there, but if that visionary cannot gather people around them to pursue that vision, they just become another person walking down the street talking to themselves. They go nowhere. We can't really do anything of significance by ourselves. And I look at my personal life. My mom was the one who encouraged me to go into business in the first place. When I was applying to graduate school, I got turned down at first. And my boss at the time, she actually contacted the admissions people and said, "You need to look at him again." And I got the acceptance after that. My marriage, my mom actually introduced us, my wife and I, at a dinner party where she had 10 people invited, and my wife and I were the only single ones there. Yeah, subtle. It's these things we don't realize how much we need those people around us. Even today, I have accountability partners who help me move in the direction that I want to move. They'll ask, "So, Greg, you've been saying you want to do this now 3 times in a row. What's going to change this week?" I've got a buddy that he and I travel occasionally together just to have these deep conversations, having different viewpoints, having different mindsets, having different resources that you can call on is necessary for you to grow beyond where you currently are.
Yeah, yeah. It's a sign of strength, I believe. We sell it in our world today as a sign of weakness that you need help. I think it's a sign of strength to show that I'm asking for help.
Yes.
And because that vulnerability makes you human. And people want to connect and help other humans. It's hard to want to help someone who has all the answers themselves.
I read an article in Harvard Business Review, it was probably about 10 years ago now, but they had done a study, and those who actually said they don't know and went and found the answer appeared more competent than those who said they always had the answer.
Absolutely. You probably experienced that in trainings. I've had trainings where people ask me a question and I'll sit there and I'll think about it a second. And then I look at them and I go, I have no idea. And as I could tell you a million different answers, but I don't know. I could ask you a couple of questions to help clarify, but that's going to be up to you. And I would love to help you outside of this. All of a sudden, when you said that, I could just tell everyone, I had the trust of everyone because I wasn't going on something that I really didn't know anything about.
It is not just a pat answer. No one wants to feel like they're the one size fits all. With networking, when you're asking people about how can you be of service to them, it's individual. People don't always need more clients. Sometimes they're at capacity. What they really need is a good accountant or a doctor, or they need to have some new piece of technology, or they need to have information. This AI thing is so big now. They need to have someone that can help them explain how they can use that tool. There are more ways to be of service than just getting someone a new contract.
Absolutely. I also found one of the biggest thing people really do need is someone to listen to them. And when you can do that for them, there's a connection made for life typically, because all of a sudden, when you're truly listening to understand, there's a connection that's made.
Yeah. And you're not making any assumptions about what you're hearing. You're just opening space for them to say what they need to say.
I love how you put that, opening that space, because so often we don't have to do anything, just be that space where people can hear, be heard, and
I'm
connect.
not saying I'm always good at it. I've got a couple of teenage daughters. I just want to say, listen, here's the answer. Okay.
I find that's where we're blindest, the stuff that's closest to us. It's the thing that plugs us in and we can't see clearly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Is there anything I haven't asked you today that you'd like me to ask or you'd like to answer? Or is there anything like that?
I guess one of the questions that I sometimes get is where is the best place to network? And the answer is I can't tell you that. It all depends on who you're trying to connect with. Don't assume that the local chamber is the only place to network. Chambers are great. Don't get me wrong. I love our local chamber,
Yeah.
but it's not always the right place. Understand who you want to meet, who you want to have as part of your network. That tells you where to go.
Yeah.
And then once you're there, you need to make the connection and follow up because you aren't going to develop that connection 5 minutes at a time, once a month in a crowded room talking about the weather.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That's great. Greg, how can people find you? We will have your information on our website, on the social media that we send out. But someone who's listening right now, if they can't look at that, how do they get a hold of you?
I would say you can go to my website, www.thereluctantnetworker.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I tend to hang out the most. You can just search for Greg Peters or The Reluctant Networker there, and I will show up.
Now, do you have any talks coming up, public things coming up in the next month or
Nothing
two?
this week.
Nothing this week. Thank goodness, probably.
Actually, we have that same credit union that I spoke at before. They're bringing me in again for their pizza and power lunch. This is a Downriver Federal Credit Community Credit Union. Those are the right initials. I might have gotten them in the wrong order. And then I believe also next week, I'm going to be at Empower Ann Arbor Breakfast. They've just opened a brand new chapter here. And so I'll be the second meeting to present.
That's great. I wish you best in those talks and the rest of your career. I look forward to being connected with you since we started. It's a pleasure. Thank you for being on the show today. I really do appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for bringing me in.
Thanks. And also, I'm going to bring Finley in here as we finish up. I think she's probably taking a nap. Look at that cute dog. I'm sorry. She's just so awesome. But Greg, thanks so much for being on the show. Everyone out there, I thank you for watching another episode of A Shot of Inspiration. Finley and I will see you next time. If you will, like and subscribe. It gets our message out there a little further. And I appreciate you sharing it with your friends. Until next time, see ya. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of A Shot of Inspiration. If you like this or any of our other episodes, make sure you rate it and share it with a friend. This is Greg Stevens, and we look forward to being with you next time. Until then, be bold, be courageous, and respectfully speak your truth.